students, welcome to our channel Mushrooming Your Knowledge. Today we will discuss about the hormonal regulation during pregnancy. It is a requested video tutorial. Before starting this lesson, please collect your notebook to note down all the important points. This video might be little bit long, but I can assure all of you that it will be helpful while preparing for your exam. So please listen till the end so that you can make out each and every concept of the entire topic. At first, you should know the basic female hormones which usually regulates a female reproductive system. So first come to this diagram. This is a human brain and here the hypothalamus and pituitary glands are present. So the first hormone is GnRH or gonadotropin releasing hormone. It is released by the hypothalamus. It is basically a dipeptide. It is released once in every 1 to 3 hours. This is the cyclic release of GnRH from the hypothalamus. This GnRH induces the anterior pituitary to release two gonadotropin hormone. One is luteinizing hormone, another one is FSH, means follicle stimulating hormone. Note that the luteinizing hormone release is similar with the gonadotropin releasing hormone cyclic production. But the FSH secretion do not coincide with the cyclic secretion of GnRH. So the LH and FSH are released by the anterior pituitary and they trigger the release of ovarian hormones, which is estrogen and progesterone. These hormones regulate the female monthly sexual cycle. It is in case of female, but in case of male, these two hormones regulate the male reproductive system, which is testis, and from testis it induces the secretion of the testosterone. Come to this diagram. This is the posterior pituitary gland. Okay, so from the posterior pituitary, two hormones are secreted. One is ADH or antidiuretic hormone and another one is oxytocin. So ADH doesn't play any role in female reproductive system, but the oxytocin plays crucial role in female sexual reproductive system and also in case of pregnancy and especially in the time of parturition. Oxytocin is also called as love hormone or cuddle hormone because it is released when people snuggle up or bond socially. Okay, so next come to the female monthly sexual cycle. So it is characterized by the monthly rhythmical changes in the rates of secretion of female hormones and corresponding changes in the ovary and sexual organ. In our childhood, our ovaries are not responding towards the LH and FSH because during childhood, no gonadotropins are released. So, ovaries remain inactive. But at the age of 11 to 16 years, that is the puberty period, gonadotropin starts to release from the hypothalamus and pituitary and the initiation of the monthly sexual cycle occurs. So, the ovary becomes active at the puberty period. And note that the first menstrual cycle is called as menarche. So this female sexual cycle is divided into two classes. One is ovarian cycle and another one is menstrual cycle. So the ovarian cycle is completed within the ovary and the menstrual cycle is completed within the uterus. So first come to the ovarian cycle. This is characterized by the release of ovum from the ovary. Okay. So this cycle is subdivided into three phases. One is follicular phase, and another one is corpus luteum phase, and the mid phase, this is called as ovulation. Okay, so you can see here. So in the follicular phase, the dominating hormone is FSH or follicle stimulating hormone. This hormone stimulates the development of the follicles. So the follicles from the primary follicle, it develops, becomes mature and produce the secondary follicle, and after it getting completely maturation, it becomes a Graafian follicle. This is it. So this entire development of the follicle is stimulated by the FSH. So as the follicles grow, they start to synthesize another hormone, which is estrogen. This estrogen hormone and follicle stimulating hormone dominates this phase. Okay. So as the follicle grow, FSH start to stimulate this growth, and FSH also stimulate the production of the FSH receptor on the follicles, so that more and more FSH come and bind with it, and this entire process is induced by the estrogen hormone. At the latter phase, FSH and estrogen stimulate the production of the luteinizing hormone receptor on the Graafian follicle and prepare them to initiate the next event of cycle. So, high estrogen concentration induce the hypothalamus to secrete more GnRH, thus the luteinizing hormone secretion is increased. You can note that the estrogen hormone secretion, you can see here, the estrogen hormone secretion peaks about the 12th day of a month. Okay, that is the 2 days before the ovulation. Actually, the ovulation takes place at the 14th day of the month and the estrogen peaks about 12th day of the month. And when the estrogen peaks, the estrogen and the FSH action combined and stimulate the GnRH secretion by the hypothalamus, and then the GnRH secretion is increased. That's why the luteinizing hormone secretion is also increased, and you can see the peak of LH or luteinizing hormone just 16 hours before the ovulation. So, now come to the ovulation. Ovulation is the second phase of the ovarian cycle where the ovum becomes released from the Graafian follicle and it enters into the fallopian tube and it starts its journey through the fallopian tube. Okay, this is the ovulation period. This occurs in the 14th day of the month, and after the ovulation, the next phase is called as luteal phase. Okay, so this luteal phase is dominated by the progesterone hormone, and you can see here, after release of the ovum from the Graafian follicle or from the ovary, the remaining empty follicle is called as corpus luteum. When the follicle is active, that means ovum is inside the follicle, then it can synthesize the estrogen only. But when the follicle discharges the ovum, it remains empty, then it can synthesize both progesterone and estrogen. You can see this graph. Before ovulation, there is no trace of progesterone in our blood, but after ovulation, there is a peak of progesterone and there is also peak of estrogen. This progesterone and estrogens are synthesized by the empty follicle, that is called as corpus luteum. High progesterone level in blood after ovulation combined with the estrogen during the luteal phase and inhibits the FSH and LH secretion, thus inhibits the multiple ovulation in a single cycle. Next, coming to the menstrual cycle. This occurs in the uterus and this is characterized by the preparation of the uterine endometrium for the implantation of fertilized ovum at the appropriate time of month. So, there are two phases in the menstrual cycle basically. One is proliferative phase, another one is secretory phase. The proliferative phase occurs when the ovary is in follicular phase. When the ovary start to secrete the FSH and estrogen, then the uterus is in the proliferative phase. That means the endometrium layers start to synthesis with the help of estrogen. And the spiral arteries are also developed within the endometrium layer. Estrogen stimulate the production of progesterone receptor in the endometrium to prepare it for the next event. And next, this is the secretory phase. It occurs when the ovary is in luteal phase. Okay, so progesterone level is high, the endometrium is well prepared to accept and nourish the fertilized embryo. So, by these two phases, the menstrual cycle is actually completed, but if the ovum does not fertilized by any sperm, then what happens? Then before starting another new cycle, another new monthly sexual cycle, the entire endometrium layer shut down. Okay, so this phase is called as menstruation. Before starting any new cycle, the endometrium layer breaks down as well as the spiral arteries which are present in the endometrium also broken down. That's why the bleeding occurs. Note that the spiral arteries are not present in the lower animal. That's why during the menstrual phase, there is no bleeding in case of lower animal. But in case of us, human, the bleeding occurs before starting a new cycle. This is the menstruation phase. And the duration of each phase, the follicular phase started from the first day of the month and it continues up to the 13th day of the month. Then at the 14th day, the ovulation takes place, and after that, from the 15th day to the 28th day, the luteal phase continues. Hope that this monthly sexual cycle is clear to all of you. Next, come to the fertilization and establishment of pregnancy. So, this is the uterus, and this region is called as infundibulum. This region is called as ampulla. So in this ampulla region, the fertilization actually occurs. You can see here the fertilization occurs. Then this is the day 1 after fertilization where the zygote is produced. Then the cleavage is ongoing. Then it is produced as a morula. Then blastula. Morula is 16 cell condition and blastula is 32 or more cell condition. Then the blastula come here and then the implantation takes here. Okay. So when the implantation takes, at the day of 7 after fertilization, the implantation takes place. Okay. So next come to the pregnancy period. The entire pregnancy period is divided into 3 trimesters. Trimester means a period of 3 months. So there is 3 trimesters in pregnancy. First trimester composed of 1 to 3 months, second trimester composed of 4 to 6 months, and third trimester is composed of 7 to 9 months. So initially in the first trimester, the embryo and soon the placenta produces the HCG or human chorionic gonadotropin hormone. You can see here the HCG is produced initially by the placenta, and this is the fetus and this is the placenta, and the human chorionic gonadotropin hormone is released by the placenta, and the prega kit is also produced by the HCG antibody, HCG specific antibody. If the HCG present in the urine, then the pregnancy test is confirmed. Okay, so this HCG hormone is released by the placenta initially, and it peaks about week 7. Then it fall down. Placenta produce HCG in order to keep the corpus luteum alive in the ovary. Okay, so the corpus luteum is dead follicle of ovary, and as it remain alive by the action of HCG, it continues the production of estrogen and progesterone throughout the pregnancy period. So in first trimester, that is 1 to 3 months of pregnancy, the progesterone and estrogens are synthesized. In the second trimester, the fetus of course keep growing. The HCG peaks about week 7 and then falls down, but it is still being produced by the placenta. By the second trimester, the estrogen and progesterone level is still continuously increased because it is still being produced by the ovary. Okay, but the placenta is also taking over the job and begins to produce the progesterone and estrogen as well. In the third trimester, that is the 6 to 9 months of period, the placenta plays the main role in the producing hormones. Note that now the ovary remains inactive. No hormones are secreted by the ovary, only placenta produces the hormone estrogen and progesterone as well as very low amount of human chorionic gonadotropin hormone. It doesn't really producing any more the HCG, causes it is now producing a lot of estrogen and progesterone itself. Now importantly, when 9 months hits, all of these hormones are dropped down and doesn't get produced anymore. At this time, the baby wants to come out, so the uterus start to contract. This period is called as parturition period. Next come to the parturition process. Parturition can be defined as the action of giving birth to young. Throughout the pregnancy period, during first, second and third trimester, when estrogen and progesterone level is rising, they prepare the mother for the labor. You can see in this graph, this is the graph during the labor period and during the delivery period. This graph is divided into 3 phases, the phase 1, phase 2 and phase 3, and the initial is the phase 0. In different phases, different kinds of hormones are required for the parturition. So this is the picture of uterus. Here is the baby's hypothalamus and pituitary gland. Here is the baby's kidney. Above the kidney, the adrenal gland is present here, and this is the placenta. This is the umbilical cord. So the estrogen produced from the placenta plays very crucial role. It increases the oxytocin receptor on the uterus, and the progesterone released from the placenta throughout the pregnancy also induce the production of the relaxin hormone that relaxes the smooth muscle of uterus during pregnancy, because we don't want to contract the uterus during the pregnancy. We want to contract the uterus at the time of parturition or at the time of giving birth. So you can see here in the phase 1, during the labor period, at first the estrogen and progesterone are released to increase the production of the oxytocin receptor on the uterus, and in the latter phase the prostaglandin, the oxytocin, and other hormones which are required in the uterine contraction are released, and after the delivery the oxytocin is released, because oxytocin is also important hormone for the post birth nourishment. So let's discuss the parturition process step by step. At first, a fetal stress is generated. When the fetus wants to leave from the womb, it stimulates the synthesis of the corticotropin hormone by its hypothalamus. This corticotropin hormone what? ACTH, means adrenocorticotropin hormone. ACTH is released by the pituitary. Hypothalamus released CRH, that is corticotropin releasing hormone. Then this CRH directs the anterior pituitary of the baby to synthesize the ACTH, that is the adrenocorticotropic hormone. Okay. So the ACTH stimulates the cortisol, which is present in the adrenal gland. Adrenal gland is present above the kidney. So ACTH stimulates the adrenal gland to produce the cortisol hormone. Okay. So the cortisol again affects the placenta to decrease the production of the progesterone and estrogen and increase the production of the prostaglandin. Prostaglandin hormone also helps in uterine contraction. As the baby is pushing out, this causes the uterine and the cervix to stretch. This stretching stimulates the sensory nerve present around this area. The sensory nerve stimulates the hypothalamus of the mom to secrete oxytocin by the posterior pituitary. The released oxytocin causes the uterine contraction and more prostaglandin production by the uterus to contract the uterus more and more. This entire cycle continues because the uterus is contracting and the baby's head pushes against the cervix. So the entire cycle gradually continues, but after a certain period of time, essentially the uterus keeps contracting and contracting until the baby will leave the uterus and essentially be born. You can see here the cervix thins and dilates during labor by the hormone relaxin. As the body moves through the pelvis, the ligaments of the pelvis are also relaxed by the relaxin, and the baby's head usually rotates towards facing the spine. As the uterus pushes the baby through the pelvis, the head begins to come out. Then the shoulder moves and come out by rotating again. At last the body slips out and the entire process of pregnancy is completed now. So after the birth of a baby, these two hormones plays very important role. The first one is prolactin, which is produced by the anterior pituitary, and it stimulates the lactogenesis, means it stimulates the milk production. Prolactin along with the cortisol and insulin act together to stimulate the transcription of genes that encode the milk proteins. The next one is oxytocin. Oxytocin synthesis is induced by the suckling pressure by babies. When the suckling pressure increases, the oxytocin synthesis is also increases, and the oxytocin causes the release of the milk during the feeding. If the concentration of oxytocin is high, then the amount of released milk is also high. So this is how the post-birth hormones regulate the nourishment of the baby. So we have already come to the end of this class. Hope the concepts are very clear to all of you. If you have any doubt regarding this topic, please feel free to ask in the comment box below. Thank you for watching this video. If you like it, then do like, share and subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell icon.